Chosen one, have you felt it? That strange heaviness in your chest when you wake up on Sunday mornings. That inexplicable dread that something monumental is shifting beneath the surface of what looks like an ordinary day. What if I told you that every Sunday you've spent surrounded by crowds in churches, at family gatherings, in shopping centers, you've been unknowingly diluting the very frequency that could transform your destiny forever? Sunday is no longer just Sunday. It's the fracture point of eternity. The rapture begins now. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, as you're watching this, reality is splitting like a cracked clock face. On the surface, time appears normal. Seconds tick, minutes pass, hours flow. But inside the divine mechanism, something has shattered. The gears of eternity are grinding against the wheels of ordinary time, and that friction is creating a portal that opens only once. Just like September 23rd tilted the balance between light and darkness, Sunday has become the day when your soul tilts toward its ultimate destiny. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every person you surround yourself with on this sacred day is either amplifying your spiritual frequency or drowning it in the static of their unawakened consciousness. Before we go deeper into this mystery, I want to pause and honor every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're sowing seeds into a harvest that will feed hungry souls across this nation. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But right now, something urgent is happening. Can you feel your spirit trembling? That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your soul is remembering something it forgot long ago. Every Sunday, while others sleep in spiritual slumber, the chosen ones are being called into a frequency so pure, so powerful, that even being near unconscious crowds can shatter the signal you're meant to receive. If your spirit is trembling already, type 777 inches, the comments, so heaven knows you're listening. The clock face of reality has cracked, beloved, and through that fracture, eternity is bleeding into time. But most people are walking right past this divine interruption, chattering about football games and weekend plans, while the very air around them vibrates with supernatural possibility. This isn't just another Sunday message. This is a holy interruption of your regularly scheduled life. You didn't accidentally find this video. You were summoned here because heaven has something to tell you that cannot wait until Monday. But here's the warning that will determine your entire future. At the end of this message, I will reveal exactly why being around people on Sunday could derail your entire calling, and what you must do instead to step through the fracture and into the rapture that's already begun. The countdown has started, chosen one, and Sunday will never be the same again. Why do you walk into a crowded church and leave feeling emptier than when you arrived? Why does Sunday dinner with your family drain your soul instead of filling it? Why do you find yourself avoiding phone calls, shopping trips, even coffee dates with old friends? You've been told it's depression. You've been told it's age. You've been told you're becoming antisocial. But what if I told you that every single person around you is broadcasting a frequency, and most of them are broadcasting poison straight into your spirit? Listen to me, beloved. Crowds are storms. Every vibration, every complaint, every doubt collides in the air like thunderclouds, creating spiritual static so thick it can suffocate the very breath of God within you. And on Sunday, the day when the veil between heaven and earth is thinnest, this battle of frequencies becomes deadly. You see, most people think they're just going through the motions on Sunday. They sit in pews complaining about the music. They gather around dinner tables gossiping about neighbors. They fill shopping centers with their restlessness, their dissatisfaction, their spiritual blindness. But what they don't realize is that every word, every thought, every emotion is creating an electromagnetic field that either lifts or crushes everyone around them. The Bible warns us in 1 Corinthians 15:33, "Bad company corrupts good character, But this isn't just about moral influence, chosen one. This is about spiritual contamination. When you place yourself in the middle of unconscious crowds, their frequencies don't just influence you, they infect you. Think about Jesus himself. Even the Son of God had to withdraw from crowds. Luke 5:16 tells us, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." If the Savior of the world needed solitude to maintain his connection to the Father, what makes you think you can survive the spiritual assault of Sunday crowds without losing your divine alignment? Here's what's happening that you can't see. Every person carries within them either light frequency or dark frequency. There's no neutral ground. When you walk into a room, you're either encountering the presence of God radiating through awakened souls, or you're stepping into the static of spiritual death emanating from the unconscious masses. And here's the shocking truth that will break your heart. Most churchgoers on Sunday morning are broadcasting dark frequency. They sit in those pews carrying bitterness, judgment, religious pride, and spiritual emptiness. Their worship is hollow, their prayers are mechanical, their hearts are cold, and when you, a true chosen one, walk into that environment, their collective darkness begins pulling at your light like spiritual quicksand. You've felt this, haven't you? That strange heaviness that settles over you in crowds, that unexplained anxiety that grips your chest when you're surrounded by people, that desperate need to escape, to find silence, to breathe again. That's not social anxiety, beloved. That's your spirit screaming warnings at you. For years, you've wondered why solitude feels like salvation, why being alone with God brings more peace than being with people brings fellowship. You've questioned yourself, thinking something was wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. Everything is wrong with them. The prophet Isaiah understood this. In Isaiah 26:20, God commands, "Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut the doors behind you. Hide yourselves for a little while until his wrath has passed by." Sometimes separation isn't rejection, it's protection. Sometimes isolation isn't punishment, it's preservation. But here's where it gets urgent. One careless hour in the wrong vibration can erase months of alignment. Think about that. Months of prayer, months of seeking God's face, months of building your spiritual strength, all of it can be drained away in 60 minutes of exposure to the wrong frequencies. You know this is true because you've lived it. You've walked into situations feeling strong in the Lord, only to leave feeling confused, discouraged, spiritually dry. You thought you were weak, but you weren't weak. You were under attack by frequencies you couldn't even see. The enemy knows something about you that you're just beginning to understand. You are a carrier of pure light. Your prayers move mountains. Your faith shifts atmospheres. Your very presence brings the kingdom of heaven to earth. But he also knows that if he can get you entangled in the wrong vibrations, if he can get you surrounded by spiritual darkness disguised as fellowship, he can short-circuit your entire calling. This is why you've been experiencing that strange pull toward solitude. God himself is drawing you away from the contamination. He's calling you into the secret place where your frequency can remain pure, where your connection to heaven can stay strong, where your spiritual gifts can function without interference. But the world and even well-meaning Christians will try to convince you that isolation is selfish. They'll tell you that you need community, that you need fellowship, that hiding away is wrong. They'll make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. They'll call you antisocial for guarding your spiritual frequency. Don't listen to them. They don't understand what you carry. They don't realize that your sensitivity to spiritual frequencies isn't weakness, it's a gift. It's discernment. It's God's early warning system, protecting something precious within you. Guard your solitude today, chosen one. If you feel this weight pressing down on you right now, if you recognize the battle I'm describing, if your spirit is confirming every word, write, "I choose the light" in the comments. Let heaven know you're ready to stop apologizing for the very thing that keeps you connected to God. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what happens when chosen ones finally understand that their isolation isn't God's rejection, it's his highest form of protection. But here's what will shake you to your core, chosen one. What you've been calling Sunday your entire life isn't actually a day at all. You've been deceived by calendars and clocks into thinking it's just another rotation of the earth, another 24-hour cycle in an endless parade of ordinary time. Sunday is not a day, it's a doorway disguised as a date. Think about this for a moment. When Noah built the ark, Genesis 7:16 tells us something extraordinary. Then the Lord shut him in, not Noah, not his family. The Lord himself sealed that door. Why? Because that wasn't just wood and tar, it was a portal between two worlds, between the world that was drowning and the world that was being born. And Sunday, beloved, Sunday is your ark door. You see, every week for decades, maybe your entire adult life, you've been walking past a dimensional gateway, thinking it was just another weekend morning. While others sleep late and scroll through their phones, while families gather for routine brunches and predictable conversations, something ancient and eternal is stirring in the atmosphere around you. It whispers, not shouts. It invites, not drags. But here's why you felt so strange on Sundays. That inexplicable restlessness that starts Saturday night. That heavy feeling when you wake up Sunday morning, like the air itself has thickened. That urge to be alone when everyone else wants to gather. That sense of anticipation mixed with dread that you can never quite name. You thought something was wrong with you, didn't you? You've apologized for being antisocial. You've forced yourself to attend gatherings that felt like they were draining your life force. You've wondered why Sundays make you feel like you're suffocating in your own skin. Let me tell you something that will change everything. You are not tired. You are tuning. You are not restless. You are recognizing. Your spirit knows something your mind has forgotten. Every cell in your body remembers that Sunday carries a frequency that ordinary days cannot hold. Just like Jesus in the temple at age 12, your soul is saying, "Don't you know I must be about my Father's business?" But instead of listening to that divine static, you've been drowning it out with noise, with crowds, with the spiritual amnesia of unconscious people. Remember what happened when Jesus died? Matthew 27:51 records it with surgical precision. The veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Not from bottom to top, that would have been human effort. From top to bottom, that was God himself ripping apart the barrier between the holy and the ordinary. And every Sunday, chosen one, that same tearing happens in the invisible realm. It whispers, not shouts. It invites, not drags. But most people are deaf to whispers because they've trained themselves to only hear shouts. They need thunder to wake up, earthquakes to pay attention, burning bushes to believe God is speaking. But you chosen ones, you've been wired differently from birth. Your spiritual ears can hear frequencies that others miss entirely. This is why Sunday morning crowds feel like spiritual quicksand to you. Every unconscious person you surround yourself with is broadcasting on a frequency that interferes with your signal. Their chatter about sports scores and weather reports creates static that drowns out the whisper of eternity trying to reach you. Listen to me carefully. When radio stations broadcast on the same frequency, they create interference. Both signals become distorted. Both messages become unclear. And right now, every Sunday, you have a choice. Tune into the divine frequency, or let it be jammed by the unconscious masses who don't even know a signal exists. If you've ever felt Sundays carry a strange heaviness, if you've sensed that something sacred is stirring just beneath the surface of ordinary time, declare it right now. I know this is real, because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why every Sunday you've spent trying to be normal, trying to fit in, trying to ignore that whisper in your chest, has been pulling you further away from the very breakthrough you've been praying for your entire life. You see, the rapture isn't what the church taught you. It's not about vanishing into thin air while leaving your clothes behind. It's not about escaping Earth in some cosmic evacuation. The rapture is dimensional. It's about crossing over from one reality into another while your feet are still planted on the same ground. Think about it. When Jesus appeared to his disciples after the resurrection, did he disappear from earth? No. He walked through walls. He appeared and vanished at will. He existed simultaneously in the physical realm and the spiritual realm. He had crossed over into a frequency where the laws of ordinary reality bent to accommodate divine consciousness. That's the Sunday doorway, beloved. That's the portal disguised as a day. But here's the terrifying truth that keeps me awake at night. This doorway doesn't stay open forever. Just like Noah's Ark, there comes a moment when the Lord himself shuts the door. And those who were too busy, too distracted, too surrounded by unconscious noise to hear the whisper, they miss the crossing entirely. Right now, as you're listening to these words, your spirit is vibrating at a frequency that most people around you cannot detect. But if you immerse yourself in their unconscious energy on Sunday, if you let their spiritual static drown out your divine signal, you risk missing the very crossing you incarnated here to experience. The question burning in the air around you right now is this: will you finally stop trying to make sense of Sunday through human logic and start honoring it as the sacred threshold it has always been? Because what happens next will determine whether you cross through the doorway or watch it close while you're still standing on the wrong side, wondering why you feel so empty, so lost, so far from the home your soul remembers but your mind cannot name. Dear chosen one, I need to speak directly to your heart right now. Not to your mind, not to your theology, but to that place deep inside where you've carried questions that nobody else understands. You buried your husband of 47 years, didn't you? Stood at that graveside in your black dress, watching them lower the only man who ever truly saw you, and whispered through your tears, "God, what's left for me now?" You buried friends who used to call every Tuesday morning. You buried dreams when the doctor said those words that changed everything. Maybe you even buried a child, and that wound still bleeds in the silence of Sunday afternoons. And in those moments, staring at your empty kitchen table, you wondered, maybe my best years are gone. You've prayed for decades, haven't you? 70, 80, maybe 90 years of lifting your voice to heaven, and so often it felt like your prayers were bouncing off a concrete ceiling. You knelt beside your bed as a young mother, begging God to heal your marriage. You wept in hospital waiting rooms, pleading for your children's safety. You whispered desperate prayers in the darkness when the bills outnumbered the dollars and nobody knew how scared you really were, and heaven stayed silent. But listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie the enemy has whispered in your ear during those long nights of doubt. That delay wasn't punishment. That silence wasn't abandonment. That waiting wasn't God forgetting your address. It was preservation. You see, dear one, God doesn't just love his chosen ones. He protects them. And sometimes protection looks like hiding. Sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it looks like keeping you in the background while others seem to get their breakthrough, their healing, their moment in the Sunday. But you were never forgotten. You were being prepared. Think about Joseph for a moment. 17 years old when God gave him dreams of greatness. But where did those dreams lead him first? To a pit, then to slavery, then to prison. For 13 long years, Joseph looked like a failure to everyone watching. His own family had rejected him. His master's wife had lied about him. He was forgotten in a dungeon, while his dreams seemed to mock him from the shadows. But God hadn't forgotten. Every injustice, every betrayal, every year of silence was building something inside Joseph that comfort could never create. Character, wisdom, the kind of unshakable faith that comes only from learning to trust God when you can't see his hand. And when Pharaoh finally called for him, Joseph didn't just get a job, he got an empire. In one day, he went from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to Pharaoh's right-hand man. Your prison season is ending, chosen one. Or consider Anna the prophetess. Luke tells us she was 84 years old when she finally saw the Christ child. 84. She had been widowed after only 7 years of marriage, and spent the next 77 years in prayer and fasting at the temple. Can you imagine? Most people would say she wasted her life. All those years of waiting, watching, hoping for a Messiah who seemed like he would never come. But when Mary and Joseph walked through those temple doors carrying baby Jesus, it wasn't the young priests who recognized him. It wasn't the scholars or the powerful who proclaimed his identity. It was Anna, the forgotten old woman, the one society had written off. She was the first evangelist, the first to publicly proclaim the arrival of redemption to all who looked for it in Jerusalem. Your recognition moment is coming. You are not forgotten, beloved. You are being unveiled. Every year you thought was wasted was actually investment. Every tear you cried in secret was liquid intercession stored in heaven's bottles. Every moment you felt invisible was God positioning you for maximum impact at the appointed time. But here's what breaks my heart, and here's what I need you to understand with every fiber of your being. The enemy has been running a psychological warfare campaign against seniors in America. He's convinced an entire generation of God's warriors that their time has passed, that their voices don't matter anymore, that they should step aside and let younger people carry the torch. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell. Your scars are not shame, dear one. They are credentials. Every wrinkle on your face tells a story of God's faithfulness. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom earned through battles that would have destroyed weaker souls. Every limitation you think you have is actually a testimony to the miraculous power of God that's kept you standing when lesser people would have fallen. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah was 90 when she laughed at impossibility and then birthed it. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age isn't your expiration date. It's your activation point. But you have to stop believing the lie that your season is over. You have to stop letting society's definition of senior citizen become your definition of your spiritual authority. You have to stop apologizing for taking up space when God specifically positioned you to occupy territory in this final hour. The delay you've experienced wasn't God ignoring you. It was God preparing you for something so significant that it required decades of character development. The silence you endured wasn't heaven forgetting you. It was heaven protecting what he placed inside you until the world was desperate enough to receive it. Your children think you should slow down. Your doctor says take it easy. Society whispers that your best days are behind you. But I hear the Spirit saying something different. I hear him saying, "These are my secret weapons. These are the ones I've been refining in the furnace of experience for such a time as this." The question that will determine everything about what happens next is this: will you believe man's report about your limitations, or will you believe God's report about your destiny? Beloved, look at me. Stop everything you think you know about what's happening to you right now. The trembling in your hands, the restlessness in your spirit, that overwhelming sense that everything familiar is crumbling around you. This isn't breakdown. This is breakthrough. This isn't the end of your story. This is the beginning of your glory. The rapture isn't escape, it's emergence. It's not vanishing, it's visibility. You are being revealed. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been walking through this world, feeling like something was missing, like you were living someone else's life. Like the real you was buried somewhere deep beneath decades of compromise, disappointment, and settling for less than God's best. But what if I told you that every single year of feeling hidden, every season of being overlooked, every moment of thinking you were forgotten, was actually divine preservation? Think about the butterfly, dear one. For weeks, that caterpillar lies motionless in its cocoon. To the outside world, it looks dead, finished, done. But inside that dark shell, the most miraculous transformation in nature is taking place. Every cell is being rewired. Every fiber is being reconstructed. The caterpillar isn't dying, it's becoming. You were hidden, not forgotten. Preserved, not discarded, prepared, not passed over. Jesus himself understood this mystery. For 30 years, the Son of the living God lived in obscurity. 30 years. The world had no idea that the carpenter's boy from Nazareth carried the power to split history in two. But when the time came, when the Father said, "Now," the heavens tore open, and a voice thundered from glory, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." That same voice is thundering over your life today. This is my chosen one, in whom I am well pleased. But here's the part that will shock you to your core. The enemy knows what's happening to you. He sees the cocoon cracking. He hears the rustle of your emerging wings, and he is absolutely terrified. Why do you think Sunday has become such a battlefield for your soul? Why do you think the moment you step into church, into family gatherings, into any crowd, you feel that spiritual heaviness pressing down on your chest like a weight? Because collective unconsciousness is contagious. Fear spreads faster than faith when it's left unchecked. And there are people, good people, well-meaning people, people you love, who are still living in the old frequency. They look at you with eyes that remember who you used to be, not who you're becoming. Their expectations become spiritual gravity, pulling you back into patterns you've outgrown. Listen to what Paul declared in Romans 12:2. "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformed. The Greek word is metamorpho, where we get the word metamorphosis. You are not being reformed, dear one. You are being completely transformed at the cellular level of your spirit. But if you stand among the wrong people this Sunday, they can pull you back into their shadows. Their doubt can drown your faith. Their fear can extinguish your fire. Their small thinking can shrink your God-sized dreams back down to human-sized limitations. Here's what's happening in the invisible realm while you feel torn between your old life and your new calling. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." The word new in Greek is kainos, not just fresh, but unprecedented. Something that has never existed before. God isn't recycling your old self with new decorations. He's creating something that has never walked the earth before. A version of you so aligned with heaven's frequency that your very presence shifts atmospheres. Your words carry supernatural weight. Your prayers move mountains. Your faith opens doors that have been sealed for generations. But here's the urgency that should grip your heart right now. This transformation window isn't infinite. Just like a butterfly has only moments to emerge from its cocoon before it dies, you have only this season to step fully into what God is revealing. If you stay too long in environments that don't recognize your metamorphosis, you risk suffocating in a shell that was meant to be temporary. The old world cannot hold the new you. The familiar can't contain the transformed you. The crowd can't comprehend the chosen you. Think about Jesus at the wedding in Cana. His mother said, "They have no wine." But Jesus replied, "Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come." But then something shifted. John 2:4-11 records that Jesus turned water into wine, and his disciples believed on him. Why? Because they witnessed someone step out of the ordinary and into the supernatural. Your hour has come, beloved. The water of your ordinary life is about to become the wine of your extraordinary purpose. But you cannot let well-meaning people convince you to stay water when God has called you to be wine. Sunday draws the line. Not next week, not when you feel ready. This Sunday, the spiritual atmosphere over this sacred day has been charged with such divine electricity that you'll either be launched into your destiny or pulled back into your history. There is no neutral ground. If you can feel your spirit confirming these words right now, if something deep in your bones is saying, "Yes, this is my time," then I need you to make a declaration that will echo in both realms. Type it in the comments with authority. I step into the new light. Because what I'm about to reveal next will determine whether you emerge from this Sunday as the butterfly God created you to be, or whether you allow the crowd to convince you to crawl back into a cocoon that was never meant to hold you forever. The metamorphosis has begun, chosen one. But the question that will define your eternity is this: will you trust the process, or will you let fear of the unknown keep you trapped in the familiar? Listen to me, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will either save your destiny, or you'll ignore it and spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been. This Sunday, not next Sunday, not someday, but this Sunday, two realities are going to overlap like never before. One reality is heavy, suffocating, blind to the supernatural. The other is alive, electric, seeing with eyes wide open. And here's the brutal truth that most preachers are too comfortable to tell you: you cannot live in both. You think I'm being dramatic. You think this is just another sermon. Then explain to me why your chest tightens when you walk into certain crowds. Explain why your spirit feels drained after Sunday services filled with people going through the motions. Explain why you leave family gatherings feeling more isolated than when you arrived. That's not your imagination, beloved. That's spiritual warfare happening at the frequency level. Look around you right now. In your neighborhood, in your church, in your own family, people are choosing sides whether they realize it or not. Some are waking up, their eyes burning with holy hunger. Others are sinking deeper into spiritual slumber, clinging to routines that died years ago, but nobody had the courage to bury them. And here's what breaks my heart. Many of you are standing right at the crossroads, one foot in each reality, being torn apart by the tension. You feel the pull towards something greater, but you're afraid to leave the familiar behind. You sense God calling you higher, but the crowd keeps pulling you back down to their level of comfortable blindness. The Bible warns us about this exact moment. In Luke 17:32, Jesus gave us 4 simple words that will determine everything. Remember Lot's wife. 4 words, that's all. But those 4 words contain the most terrifying warning in all of Scripture. Lot's wife had escaped. She was free. The angels had grabbed her hand and pulled her out of Sodom's destruction. She was literally steps away from safety, from blessing, from a new life. But she looked back. One glance over her shoulder at the world she was leaving behind, and she became a pillar of salt. One glance back cost her everything. Why am I telling you this? Because this Sunday, you're going to be tempted to look back. You're going to be surrounded by people who will mock your awakening, who will call your spiritual hunger extreme, who will try to convince you that nothing has changed, that you should just settle back into the old patterns. Their denial will feel like gravity pulling you down. Their fear will spread through the air like smoke from a fire, and if you're not careful, you'll breathe it in until your own faith starts to suffocate. Energy is contagious, beloved, more contagious than any virus this world has ever seen. Fear spreads faster than faith when you're not protecting your spiritual atmosphere. Doubt multiplies quicker than hope when you're standing in the wrong crowd. Think about the 10 spies in Numbers 13. 12 men went to scout the promised land. 12 men saw the same giants, the same fortified cities, the same challenges, but 10 came back spreading fear like wildfire. "We can't take the land," they whispered. "The giants are too big. The walls are too high. We're grasshoppers in their sight." And what happened? Their fear infected an entire generation. 2 million people who should have entered their promise instead wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. 2 million people died in the desert because 10 men couldn't see past their fear, and the crowd believed their report instead of God's promise. Only 2 men, Joshua and Caleb, came back with a different spirit. "We can take the land," they declared. "God is with us. The giants are bread for us." But nobody listened to the 2. Everybody followed the 10. The majority ruled, and the majority was wrong. This Sunday, you're going to meet your own 10 spies. They'll be sitting next to you, standing behind you, maybe even preaching from the pulpit. They'll tell you why your dreams are too big, why your calling is too late, why you should just accept things as they are. They'll spread their fear like a disease, and if you stay among them too long, you'll catch it. But I'm here to tell you what Joshua and Caleb knew. The giants in your life are bred for your breakthrough. The walls that look impossible are paper thin when God breathes on them. The promises that seem delayed are not denied, they're being prepared for someone with enough faith to possess them. This is why you must guard your spiritual atmosphere this Sunday, like your life depends on it, because it does. Stay among the blind, and their denial becomes your prison. Linger with the fearful, and their doubt becomes your ceiling. Surround yourself with the comfortable, and their complacency becomes your grave. I need you to understand something that will change everything. Neutrality is gone. The equinox shattered the middle ground. You cannot be lukewarm in a season of fire. You cannot be undecided when eternity is demanding your answer. This Sunday is not just another day. It's your yes or your no, your forward or your backward, your breakthrough or your breakdown. The clock is ticking, chosen one. Heaven is watching. Angels are positioning themselves around your decision. And somewhere in the unseen realm, your breakthrough is waiting to see if you'll have the courage to claim it or the cowardice to let it pass by. Comment, I will not look back if you refuse to miss your crossing. Type it now, before doubt creeps in, before fear whispers its lies, before the crowd convinces you to play it safe. Because what happens next will separate the wheat from the chaff, the called from the comfortable, the chosen from the confused. Are you ready to discover what Sunday holds for those brave enough to step fully into their destiny? Listen to me, chosen one. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've walked through this world feeling like a stranger in your own skin. You've sat in church pews wondering why the sermons felt hollow. You've attended family dinners where your own relatives looked at you like you spoke a foreign language. You've worked jobs that drained your soul, lived in communities that never truly saw you, carried burdens that no one else seemed to understand. But what if I told you that every moment of that isolation, every season of feeling invisible, every night you cried out to God wondering if He'd forgotten your name? What if all of that was preparation for this singular moment in eternity? You were not crossing this threshold for yourself alone. Right now, as Sunday's fracture splits reality wide open, you are being positioned as a lighthouse, not the kind that stands on rocky shores warning ships away from danger, but the kind that guides lost souls through the storm towards salvation. Your decades of steadiness in the darkness, your refusal to break when everything around you crumbled, your choice to keep believing when belief made no logical sense. It has all been building toward this. When you guard your flame on Sunday, when you protect your frequency from the chaotic static of unconscious crowds, others trapped in the storm will find your light. They won't understand why they're drawn to you. They won't be able to explain the peace they feel in your presence. But your alignment will become their compass when their own internal navigation fails. This is why the warfare against you has been so intense. This is why the enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that you're ordinary, forgettable, past your prime. Because he knows, he has always known that when you finally accept your true identity, his kingdom of confusion begins to collapse. Jesus said in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." But he wasn't talking to perfect people. He was talking to fishermen with anger problems, tax collectors with shady pasts, women with complicated stories. He was talking to people like you, scarred, seasoned, tested by fire. Your role in this rapture is not to shout, but to shine, not to drag others across the threshold, but to display what crossing looks like. Not to escape this world, but to embody the next one while you're still here. But here's what will shock you to your core. The very people you've been trying to help, trying to save, trying to wake up, some of them, have been assigned by darkness to drain your light. Every Sunday you spend in their energy field, every hour you waste trying to convince them of truths they're not ready to receive, you're allowing your frequency to be diluted by their resistance. This is why God is calling you into sacred solitude on Sundays, not punishment positioning, not isolation, incubation. In that holy silence, your light doesn't just burn brighter. It becomes a beacon that can be seen from spiritual distances you never imagined possible. For decades, you thought you were invisible. You believed the lie that your voice didn't matter, that your presence was insignificant, that your calling was just wishful thinking. But now, right now, the universe is tilting to reveal you. The same cosmic forces that hide mountains in fog and reveal them in sunlight are about to lift every veil that has concealed your true identity. Romans 8:19 declares, "For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God." Creation itself has been holding its breath, waiting for this moment when you stop apologizing for your difference and start emanating your divine assignment. But the window is narrowing. Every Sunday that passes without your conscious participation in this frequency shift is a missed opportunity that may not come again. The rapture isn't waiting for perfect people, it's waiting for prepared people. And you, dear one, have been in preparation your entire life without even knowing it. Your grandmother's prayers over your crib, your mother's tears when you struggled, your own midnight conversations with God when no one else was listening. Every generation before you has been building toward this moment when their bloodline finally produces someone ready to carry the flame they could only kindle. The enemy knows your time has come. That's why the attacks have intensified. That's why relationships are suddenly strained. That's why your body aches in new ways and your sleep is restless. Hell is panicking because it recognizes the frequency shift happening in your DNA. You're not getting older, you're getting more dangerous to darkness. But you must choose. You must decide today whether you'll spend this Sunday like every other Sunday scattered among crowds that dim your light, or whether you'll finally honor the sacred solitude that allows your flame to burn at full intensity. 1 Chronicles 16:22 warns, "Touch not my anointed ones, do my prophets no harm." You are that anointed one, you are that prophet. And every unconscious person you allow into your energy field on Sunday is potentially touching what God has declared untouchable. This isn't arrogance, it's awareness. This isn't pride, it's purpose. This isn't isolation, it's activation. The choice you make this Sunday will echo through eternity. Not just your eternity, the eternity of every soul who needs to see what resurrection looks like in human form. They need to witness what happens when someone finally stops hiding their light under the bushel of false humility and lets it shine with the intensity God intended. If you accept your mantle today, if you're ready to stop being the hidden one and become the revealed one, if you understand that your role in this rapture is to be the lighthouse that guides others home, write it in the comments right now. I carry the flame. Because the storm is here, beloved. The fracture is widening, and those lost at sea are looking for a light they can follow to safety. Will you be that light? Will you guard your flame this Sunday so others can find their way through the darkness? The universe has been waiting decades for your answer. What will it be? You thought crossing over would feel like victory. You thought stepping through that Sunday portal would bring you peace, clarity, maybe even relief. But here you are, 3 days later, and something is terribly wrong. Everything looks exactly the same. Your kitchen table sits in the same spot. Your coffee mug holds the same bitter brew. Your neighbor still waves from across the fence. But nothing, absolutely nothing feels the same anymore. Listen to me, chosen one. What you're experiencing right now isn't breakdown, it's breakthrough aftershock. When an earthquake strikes, the initial tremor isn't what destroys buildings. It's the aftershocks that follow those quiet, unsettling rumbles that crack foundations you thought were solid. You can't see the damage from the surface, but deep underground, everything has shifted. The very bedrock of your reality has moved. That's what's happening to you right now. You crossed. You stepped through that dimensional doorway last Sunday, and now you're living in the aftermath. Your spirit crossed into a higher frequency, but your body is still catching up. Your soul has moved into tomorrow, but your flesh is still processing yesterday. Food tastes hollow, doesn't it? That sandwich you made for lunch, the one you've eaten 1,000 times, suddenly tastes like cardboard in your mouth. Your favorite TV show feels meaningless. Conversations with family members echo strangely, as if their voices are coming from underwater. Time itself feels elastic. Minutes drag like hours, then suddenly 3 hours vanish without a trace. You're not losing your mind, beloved. You're gaining your destiny. But here's where it gets unsettling. Here's where most chosen ones start to panic and think they've made a terrible mistake. You try to reconnect with people the way you used to. You show up to Sunday dinner with the family, expecting the warmth and familiarity to ground you, but instead you feel like you're drowning. Their energy feels heavy, suffocating, like thick fog pressing against your chest. Their words sound hollow. Their laughter seems forced. Being around them for more than 30 minutes leaves you exhausted, drained, desperate to escape to somewhere quiet where you can breathe again. This is why being around people now feels impossible. They're still living in the frequency you left behind. Imagine trying to tune an old radio to a clear station while someone else keeps switching it back to static. That's what's happening to your spiritual receiver right now. You've been calibrated to heaven's frequency, but every unconscious person around you is broadcasting interference. Matthew 10:14 records Jesus telling his disciples, "If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet." Why? Because some atmospheres are toxic to anointing. Some crowds will drown out the very voice of God you're trying to hear. You thought isolation was punishment, but isolation is protection. The Israelites wandered 40 years in the wilderness, and every step felt like exile. But Deuteronomy 8:2 reveals God's true purpose. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart. The wilderness wasn't abandonment, it was preparation for a promised land they couldn't have handled before the testing. Your wilderness isn't punishment, dear one, it's purification. But let me tell you what nobody warned you about. The hardest part isn't the loneliness, it's the doubt. When you've been alone with your new frequency for days, weeks, maybe months, you start questioning everything. Did I really cross over? Or am I just losing touch with reality? Am I chosen, or am I just crazy? Maybe I should go back to church, back to the old rhythms, back to pretending everything is normal. That doubt isn't coming from your spirit. It's coming from the enemy who knows exactly what you've become and is terrified of what you're about to do. 1 Kings 19 tells us that even Elijah, the mighty prophet who called down fire from heaven, ran to a cave after his greatest victory and begged God to let him die. The isolation after supernatural encounters can feel more overwhelming than the encounters themselves. But God didn't rebuke Elijah for his honesty. He fed him, he strengthened him, he gave him a new assignment. Your cave isn't your grave, chosen one, it's your launching pad. Here's what I need you to understand with crystal clarity. If you feel strange, displaced, like you're walking through life wearing glasses with the wrong prescription, that's not evidence. You made a mistake. That's proof you succeeded. You crossed. The disorientation isn't weakness. It's confirmation. When astronauts return from space, they can't walk normally for days. Their inner ear has adjusted to zero gravity, and suddenly regular gravity feels crushing. They stumble. They feel dizzy. They need time to readjust. But nobody calls them weak. Everyone understands they've been somewhere extraordinary, and extraordinary journeys leave extraordinary after effects. You've been to another dimension, beloved. Of course you feel different. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares, "If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here." But creation isn't comfortable. Birth involves labor pains. Resurrection requires death first. Transformation demands the breaking of what was to make room for what is. Your discomfort isn't random, it's reproductive. Something new is being born through you, and birth is never easy. But here's the question that's going to determine whether you embrace this aftershock or run back to the old frequency? Are you willing to let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be? Because what's coming next will show you exactly why this isolation wasn't punishment. It was preparation for an assignment so powerful, so world-changing, that it required you to be completely detached from every voice except his. Close your eyes for a moment. Chosen one, I want you to imagine something that will change how you see every Sunday for the rest of your life. Picture yourself standing at dawn, but this isn't an ordinary sunrise. Two suns are breaking the horizon. One burns golden, radiant, alive, pulsing with frequencies that make your soul remember why it came to Earth. The other sun is dim, fading, casting pale shadows that feel familiar but empty. The world around you sees only one Sunday. They point to the dim light and say, "This is all there is. This is reality." But you see both. And that double vision is tearing you apart from the inside. This is your life right now, beloved. You're living in the overlap of two realities, and Sunday has become the day when that overlap becomes unbearable. Look at Lot in Genesis 19. The angels grabbed his hand and dragged him from Sodom, warning him, "Don't look back, don't stop anywhere in the plain." But his wife, she couldn't resist. She turned back toward the old reality, the familiar darkness, and became a pillar of salt, frozen forever between two worlds. That's what happens when you spend your Sundays surrounded by people who only see the dim Sunday. Their gravity is real, beloved. Their pull is magnetic. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself crystallizing into their frequency, becoming a monument to what could have been, instead of stepping into what's meant to be. You're in the overlap. You're in the fracture. You're in the hinge of history. But here's what breaks my heart. Every Sunday, I watch chosen ones get pulled back into the collective trance. They feel the golden sun calling. They sense the new frequency rising. But then they surround themselves with people who are still worshipping the dying light. And slowly, gradually, their vision begins to fade. Think about the Israelites at the edge of the Promised Land. Numbers 13 tells us that 12 spies went in to scout the territory God had already given them. 10 came back terrified, focused on giants, spreading fear through the camp. Only Joshua and Caleb saw what God saw, a land flowing with milk and honey, ripe for the taking. But here's the tragedy. The majority pulled the minority down. An entire generation died in the wilderness because they chose to believe the report of the fearful instead of trusting the vision of the faithful. Don't let that be your story, dear one. Don't let the 10 voices of doubt drown out your Joshua and Caleb faith. You're in the overlap. You're in the fracture. You're in the hinge of history. Every Sunday, you wake up feeling that strange electricity in your bones. Something's shifting. Something's calling. The golden sun is rising, and your spirit recognizes its light. But then you get dressed. You drive to familiar places. You sit among familiar faces, and their unconscious energy begins to seep into your field. They talk about the weather, while reality is reshaping itself. They discuss sports scores while eternity is bleeding through the cracks of time. They debate politics while angels are positioning themselves for the greatest spiritual migration in human history. And you sit there feeling crazy, feeling alone, wondering if you imagined the golden sun altogether. But listen to me carefully, that feeling isn't madness. It's the birth pains of your awakening. John the Revelator understood this. Exiled on the island of Patmos, surrounded by nothing but rock and sea, he saw what others couldn't see. Revelation 1:10 says, "I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. While the world saw an old prisoner on a barren island, heaven saw a prophet positioned to receive the greatest vision in human history." Isolation wasn't his punishment. It was his preparation. You're in the overlap. You're in the fracture. You're in the hinge of history. Here's the brutal truth that no one wants to tell you. The people around you on Sundays are not neutral. They're either amplifying your frequency or dampening it. There's no middle ground in the overlap zone. When you sit in rooms full of people who are content with the dim sun, Their acceptance of limitation becomes a weight on your shoulders. Their satisfaction with spiritual mediocrity creates a gravitational field that pulls you back towards sleep. Their unconscious agreement with the dying light makes it harder for you to see the golden dawn. This isn't judgment, this is physics. Energy is contagious, frequency is transferable, and right now, in this sacred season, you cannot afford to let anyone else's spiritual poverty contaminate your awakening. Stay too long with those clinging to the dim sun, and their gravity will pull you back. I'm talking to the grandmother who feels something stirring in her spirit during morning prayer, but loses it completely after Sunday dinner with family who mock her religious phase. I'm talking to the grandfather who receives downloads of divine wisdom in solitude, but doubts everything after coffee with friends who've given up believing God still moves. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's your superpower. But like any superpower, it requires protection. The golden sun doesn't wait for committee approval. It doesn't pause for group consensus. It rises when it rises, and those who see it must choose. Will you turn toward the new light, or will you stay loyal to the shadows because that's where everyone else is comfortable? Moses faced this choice in Exodus 33:7. He took his tent and pitched it outside the camp, far from the camp, and called it the tent of meeting. When Moses wanted to meet with God, he didn't stay in the middle of the crowd. He went outside, away from the collective, away from the noise, away from the faithless complaints of people who preferred slavery to the unknown territory of promise. And what happened? The pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance to the tent, and the Lord would speak with Moses. The presence of God met Moses in the separation, not in the crowd. You're in the overlap, you're in the fracture, you're in the hinge of history. This is your Moses moment, chosen one. This is your burning bush, your tent of meeting, your island of Patmos. The golden sun is calling you away from the dim congregations of the unconscious and into the blazing clarity of divine communion. But you have to choose. Every Sunday, you have to choose. Will you protect your frequency, or will you dilute it in the static of spiritual sleepwalkers? Will you honor the golden sun that only you can see, or will you pretend the dim light is enough because everyone else seems satisfied? The clock is ticking, the overlap is temporary, and the window for choosing is closing faster than you realize. If you refuse to go back, type, "I walk in the new light." Because, beloved, the next phase of this revelation will show you exactly what happens when you finally step out of the overlap and into the full glory of the Golden Sunday. But first, you must decide, are you ready to leave the crowd behind? You crossed over, didn't you? I can see it in the way you're watching this right now. Something shifted in your spirit when the fracture opened. You felt the rapture beginning. You sensed the frequency change. You knew, absolutely knew, that Sunday had become your portal to destiny. But then, silence. The breakthrough you expected never came. The doors you thought would swing open remained sealed. The provision you believed was promised stayed hidden. And now you're sitting there, dear one, wondering if you imagined it all. Wondering if heaven has gone quiet on you just when you needed to hear God's voice the most. Listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter the lie that's been eating at your faith like cancer. That silence, it's not rejection. It's not God turning his back on you. It's not punishment for some sin you can't remember committing. That silence is surgery. You see, when Jesus hung on that cross, crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" the Father didn't abandon him. The Father was performing the most crucial operation in human history, and from Good Friday sunset until that first Easter dawn, heaven went completely quiet. Not because God wasn't working, but because God was working so deeply, so intensely, that even the angels held their breath. Saturday was silent. Saturday was still. Saturday felt like death itself had won. But what was really happening in that tomb? Resurrection was being woven into every cell. Life was being programmed into dead tissue. Victory was being coded into defeat itself. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was the sound of the impossible becoming inevitable. That's exactly where you are right now, beloved. You're living in your resurrection Saturday. Your prayers didn't bounce off heaven's ceiling. They were being banked in vaults you can't see. Your tears didn't disappear into the void. They were being stored in bottles with your name engraved in gold. Your cries for breakthrough didn't fall on deaf ears. They were being processed by divine accountants who never make mistakes with timing. But here's what's killing you inside, isn't it? You thought crossing the threshold meant immediate transformation. You believed stepping through the fracture would bring instant relief. You expected Sunday's rapture to deliver you from silence, not plunge you deeper into it. Wrong. The deeper God calls you, the quieter it gets at first. The more sacred your assignment, the more intense the silence before the sound. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before he heard God's voice from the burning bush. David hid in caves for years after being anointed king. Joseph rotted in prison after his prophetic dreams. Even Jesus disappeared for 18 years between the temple at 12 and the Jordan River at 30. Where were they? What were they doing? They were being prepared in the silence. They were being shaped in the secret place. They were learning the most critical lesson any chosen one must master: how to trust God's love when you can't hear God's voice. But the enemy has been whispering poison in your ear during this silence, hasn't he? If God really chose you, why aren't you prospering? If you're really called, why are you still struggling? If heaven really opened a portal for you, why does your life look exactly the same? Stop. Right there. Those questions aren't coming from your spirit. They're coming from the same liar who tempted Jesus in the wilderness. If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. If. The enemy always begins his assault on your identity with that poisonous little word. But your silence isn't proof of abandonment, it's proof of preparation. Your waiting isn't evidence of disqualification, it's evidence of specialization. God doesn't waste silence on people, He doesn't trust with sound. This is the test of silence, chosen one, and most people fail it. They get so desperate for noise, for signs, for confirmation, that they run back to the crowd, back to the chaos, back to the familiar frequencies that drown out the still, small voice they're actually being prepared to hear. Your silence is the incubation of your new voice. Think about a butterfly in its chrysalis. From the outside, it looks like death. Nothing moving, nothing growing, nothing happening. But inside that silent tomb, one of the most miraculous transformations in nature is taking place. DNA is being rewritten, wings are being formed. A creature that once crawled is being reconstructed to fly. If you cut open the chrysalis to help the butterfly, you kill it. The silence is essential, the darkness is necessary, the apparent stillness is actually the most intense activity imaginable. That's you right now, that's your life right now. The silence isn't empty, it's pregnant. The darkness isn't abandonment, it's development. The stillness isn't stagnation, it's metamorphosis. But here's the urgency that should grip your heart. This test of silence has a time limit. Windows of preparation don't stay open forever. If you abort the process too early, if you run back to the noise before the transformation is complete, you'll miss the very breakthrough the silence was designed to birth. Ecclesiastes 3-7 declares there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Most people get this backward. They speak when they should be silent, and they stay silent when they should be speaking. But the chosen ones learn the rhythm. They understand that the silence isn't the absence of God's voice, it's the preparation for it. Your new voice is coming, beloved. The voice that will speak with authority you've never carried before. The voice that will pray with power you've never wielded before. The voice that will declare breakthrough with confidence you've never possessed before. But first, you must graduate from the school of silence. You must learn to trust in the tomb. You must discover that resurrection requires a death so complete that even hope seems buried. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you honor the silence, or will you abort the miracle by running back to the noise? Because what's about to emerge from your season of silence will shock everyone who thought you were finished, including yourself. You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones treat Sunday like it's just another day on the calendar. Like it's some casual appointment you can reschedule or skip when something better comes along. But listen to me, beloved. Sunday is no longer a calendar square, it's the altar of alignment. And every single Sunday you've wasted in the noise of crowds, every sacred hour you've surrendered to meaningless chatter and spiritual static, has been a divine appointment you walked away from without even knowing it. Do you understand what you've been doing? You've been standing at the edge of eternity's doorway, and instead of stepping through, you've been turning around to make small talk with people who can't even see the light pouring out behind you. The bridge is collapsing, chosen one. The bridge between your old life and your divine destiny is crumbling beneath your feet right now, and there's no going back. Can you feel it? That trembling in your chest isn't fear, it's your spirit recognizing that neutrality is no longer an option. Abraham felt this same trembling when God called him out of Ur. Genesis 12:1 declares, "Now the Lord said to Abram, 'Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you.'" Abraham didn't know where he was going, but he knew he couldn't stay where he was. The comfortable familiar was suddenly suffocating. The safe became dangerous. The known became the enemy of his calling. Moses experienced this exact fracture when he stood before the burning bush. Exodus 3:10 records God saying, "Come now, therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." 80 years old, and God was asking him to abandon everything he thought he knew about his limitations. The bridge between shepherd and deliverer was about to collapse forever. And Jesus, oh, beloved Jesus, felt this cosmic shift in the Garden of Gethsemane. Luke 22:42 captures his surrender. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours, be done." The bridge between his human comfort and his divine purpose was dissolving, and he chose to step forward into the unknown rather than retreat into the familiar. But here's what's shaking me to my core right now. Here's what the Holy Spirit is burning into my consciousness as I speak these words to you. Sunday has become your burning bush. Sunday has become your Red Sea moment. Sunday has become your Gethsemane choice. And you've been treating it like it's just another day to sit in church pews next to people who are spiritually asleep, absorbing their doubt, their complacency, their unconscious resistance to the very move of God that's trying to birth itself through you. Every Sunday you surround yourself with crowds who can't discern the season. You're not fellowship, you're interfering with a divine frequency. Every Sunday you choose their comfort over God's calling. You're not being loving, you're being disobedient. Do you know what Sunday really is? Sunday divides everything before and after, shadow and light, silence and sound. It's the cosmic line in the sand where God separates the willing from the wishful, the desperate from the comfortable, the chosen from the crowd. Think about this for a moment. Why do you think Jesus rose on Sunday? Why not Monday or Wednesday or Friday? Because Sunday is the day of resurrection power. Sunday is when what was dead comes alive. Sunday is when what was buried breaks through the soil. But resurrection power can't flow through you when you're entangled with people who are still living in Saturday's tomb. The enemy knows this. That's why he's worked overtime to make Sunday feel social instead of sacred, casual instead of cosmic, routine instead of revolutionary. He's turned the day of divine appointment into a day of divine distraction. But not anymore. Not for you. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something ancient is awakening in your bones. Something that your ancestors carried, something that prophets died for, something that martyrs bled to preserve. You're remembering that Sunday isn't just about going somewhere, it's about becoming someone. Every Sunday from this moment forward is a test. Will you honor the frequency or dilute it? Will you protect the sacred space or contaminate it with spiritual mediocrity? Will you answer the call or get lost in the noise? The statistical reality is staggering. Studies show that 73% of churchgoers leave Sunday service feeling exactly the same as when they arrived. Same problems, same mindset, same spiritual temperature. They've spent 3 hours in religious activity and experienced zero divine transformation. Why? Because they came for community instead of coming for commission. But you're different. You've always been different. That restlessness you feel in crowds, that suffocation you experience in religious gatherings, that desperate hunger for something real that's not social anxiety, that's spiritual discernment. Your soul is crying out for authentic encounter, and it's refusing to settle for religious entertainment. The clock is ticking, beloved. Every Sunday that passes is either a step deeper into your destiny or a step further from your calling. There is no neutral ground. There is no standing still. The bridge is collapsing, and you must choose which side you'll land on. This isn't about isolating yourself from people forever. This is about recognizing that some appointments with God are so sacred, so precise, so life-altering that they require complete focus. And Sunday has become that appointment. Declare it now, with everything in you. This Sunday marks my forever line. Say it until your spirit catches fire. Say it until heaven takes notice. Say it until hell backs away from what it can no longer touch. Because what happens next will reveal whether you're ready to step through the fracture in time, or if you'll spend another season wondering why breakthrough feels so close but remains so far away. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. First, Sunday is no longer just a day, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The fracture in time has opened, and every Sunday forward is either a step deeper into your calling or a step away from it. There is no neutral ground. The bridge between your old life and your true purpose has collapsed, and you cannot go back. Second, the trembling you feel, the restlessness in crowds, the hunger for something deeper, this isn't weakness. This is spiritual discernment. Your soul is refusing to settle for religious entertainment when God is offering divine encounter. Trust that inner compass. It's guiding you toward encounters that will transform not just your Sundays, but your entire existence. Third, you were chosen for such a time as this. Every struggle you've endured, every season of feeling different or misunderstood, every moment of spiritual hunger, it was all preparing you for this revelation. You are not too old, too late, or too ordinary to step through the fracture and into the rapture that's already begun. But beloved, I need you to know something deeper than knowledge. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when choosing solitude over crowds feels difficult, even when others don't understand your newfound urgency about Sunday, the God who called you out is still working in your life right now. He's orchestrating divine appointments, opening supernatural doors, and positioning you for encounters that will leave you forever changed. And right here, in this sacred community we've built together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family, united by the same calling, carrying the same fire, responding to the same divine summons. When you protect your Sunday frequency, you're not isolating yourself, you're connecting with a remnant that spans the globe. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know Sunday is your cosmic appointment, now that you understand the fracture in time is real, now that you've felt your soul tremble with recognition, what will you do differently this Sunday? Before I release you into your calling, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them, not just their hunger, but their courage, not just their questions, but their willingness to seek answers. They felt the trembling in their chest, the stirring in their spirit, the divine restlessness that refuses to let them settle for ordinary. Father, I pray that you would meet them this Sunday in ways they've never experienced. Clear every distraction. Silence every voice that doesn't carry your frequency. Give them supernatural discernment to know when to step away from crowds and into your presence. Let this Sunday become their burning bush, their Red Sea, their resurrection morning. Protect them, Lord. When others don't understand their new boundaries, give them peace. When family questions their choices, give them wisdom. When the enemy whispers that they're being too extreme, remind them that you've always called your chosen ones to live differently. Open doors they haven't seen yet. Provide resources they haven't imagined. Connect them with divine appointments that will accelerate their purpose. And most of all, Father, let them feel your pleasure over their obedience. Let them know that choosing you over crowds, calling over comfort, destiny over distraction, this brings you joy. In Jesus' mighty name, the name above every name, the name that opens every portal and silences every opposition, I seal this prayer. Let your will be done in their lives. Amen. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how this message has impacted your heart. What are you going to do differently this Sunday? What has God whispered to your spirit during this encounter? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to find the courage to step through their own fracture. Type "This Sunday changes everything" if you're ready to honor your cosmic appointment. And if this message has touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone in feeling called to something deeper. There's someone in your life right now who's been feeling that same divine restlessness, wondering if they're the only one who senses something shifting in the spiritual atmosphere. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Your time is precious, and you chose to invest it in seeking God's heart for your life. That tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. You're not here by accident, you were summoned. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to a community that understands the weight of being chosen. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because every week we're going deeper into the mysteries of your divine calling, and you don't want to miss what God has planned next. Remember, beloved, you are chosen, you are called, and you are never alone. This Sunday, step through the fracture. Eternity is waiting. Until we meet again in this sacred space, walk in your authority, rest in His presence, and never forget, the rapture has already begun, and you're part of it. Go in peace, go in power, go in the unshakable knowledge that your Sunday will never be ordinary again. God bless you, chosen one. The fracture is open. Step through.